Hi, my name is Dave Reske, CEO of Now Speed Marketing, and welcome to this edition of Marketing in the Now, where we talk about the best ideas in digital marketing. And my guest today is Mike Ensing, CEO and co-founder of Revere Inc., a firm focused on brand management in the age of AI. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you back. You were on the show a year ago talking
Yes, I
about
was.
it was so exciting. We're talking about AI and AI search and everything. And I'm thrilled to have you back because now we can revisit some of the things that have changed over the last year and go in deeper on a couple of subjects. But yeah, thanks for coming back. Well, before we get too deep into this, how was the last year in AI?
It is moving like a freight train. And
I
I
know.
think everybody knows that with the adoption of ChatGPT and Claude and AI mode. And this is an entirely new channel that marketers now have to actively manage. And I like to call it, it's created a sort of the next brand control crisis.
Yeah.
Uh, and now we have LLMs as major influencers. I talked about this about 2 years ago, saying that LLMs would impact the brand decisions of 3 billion people within 3 years. People thought I was a little bit nuts at the time, but yeah, you know what? I was wrong because it's happening faster. And so the whole world of SEO is changing and it's moving to geo and it's also moving to overall brand marketing as well.
Yeah, it's been a wild year. What was the biggest thing that surprised you over the last year? Just was it the pace of change and how quickly people have started to use and adopt and change their buying behavior based on AI, or what kind
Yeah,
of surprised you?
so I think a couple things. One is the overall pace, and actually, one of the things that's been really interesting is the huge uptick in 2026. And everybody is now using these platforms. What's been super interesting of late is actually the move by many people from ChatGPT to Claude.
Mm,
And it's pretty incredible the usage that Claude is getting recently, and really active in the B2B space.
yeah, kind of amazing. And we're going to get into all of that. But let's dig into our core subject. You and I have been talking about what you call the AI brand control crisis.
Yes.
Um, what is that? What do you mean by that? And
Well, for 30 years, 40 years, marketers had to worry about one platform, and that was Google, around sort of performance marketing and things like that. And that has all changed. And now there are channels where brands and products are being discussed, and it's very hard for marketers to control that. And it's actually even hard for marketers to understand what's being represented and what's being discussed. And essentially, the entire customer buying journey has now changed. And there's a couple big elements to this. One is just the numerous channels that are now developing through ChatGPT, Claude, AI mode, the move to agents, but then also just the different content and actually specifically recommendations that these LLMs now provide. And they're forming opinions about brands, and they're not shy about sharing what those opinions are, and they are truly the next big influencers.
yeah, huge change. Let's just unpack those ideas like kind of one at a time. And I
Yeah,
want to talk about like the way you see the buying process changed, like the
yeah,
buying behavior process. And I think we're all, many of us are starting our search now in the LLMs instead of starting our search in Google, but it's going deeper than that. And talk to me about what you're seeing about how just consumer and maybe B2B buying processes are just deep
yeah.
into the LLMs and not starting with search or not certainly don't start with a phone book anymore, right? Yeah.
Well, they're not starting with search, and a lot of times they're not ending with the company website or even speaking to a salesperson. It's all happening within these platforms. We have something now called the clickless search where a buying decision is made at the recommendation of the LLM. And people are interacting and having full conversations, getting those recommendations. And we're also going to move to a era where LLMs are going to be executing supplier evaluations, vetting suppliers, giving recommendations. And yes, we're going to move to a point where we're going to have LLMs transforming into agents, actually making the purchase decision and executing the buy.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's radical, a radical
Yeah.
distribution of power. A lot of people, especially a lot of our listeners, I don't think they understand agents. So just help
Mhm.
me understand what agents are and what they do in this context of the buying process and what they're capable of doing, and maybe some examples of how you see them.
Yeah. So I would define an agent as a AI that actually executes actions on behalf of the user. Far beyond just providing a response, but actually doing actions. And that can be all the way from doing supplier evaluations, supplier research, or brand research. It can be deciding upon what is the best brand or product to actually for the end user to purchase based on his or her needs, and then actually executing the action of buying. It is all moving to that. Gartner came out with a stat recently. 90% of all B2B purchases will be done through AI by 2028. And you can see this starting to happen as like the supplier evaluation process gets automated for many enterprises.
Yeah, it's changing really fast. I had an experience a few months ago where I was looking for thinking about getting solar for my house. Maybe we talked about
Yeah,
this example.
yeah,
And it was just amazing because what you're talking about is like you think of it as a linear process. You do a little research, you make a purchase decision, and you kind of make a transaction. But in complex situations like that, in this case, looking for solar, I had an hours long conversation
yeah,
about the
yeah.
technology and the options and the products and then and defining the needs and by the end of it I was like a super educated consumer, and then I said, hey, can you recommend suppliers? And by the
Right.
time I got to that point in the conversation, I had this trust relationship, in this case
Yes.
with ChatGPT, that when it gave me the suppliers, I'm like, those must be the best. So it's not just, the information that's coming out, it's this trust relationship that's out
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
it's changing rapidly. So what do you see as the mistake that most marketers are making in this new environment? How are they kind of like missing the boat, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think marketers have naturally evolved to basically looking at this as an SEO problem and actually have evolved into geo, which is it's the natural reflex and it makes a lot of sense, but actually it's missing the boat a bit. Marketers are measuring traffic, presence in the representation set, share of voice. But really, what marketers need to be doing is measuring, are they going to be recommended? And how are they going to be discussed about by these LLMs? What is the overall sentiment? And what are the positive drivers of that? And what are the negative drivers of that? The other thing that marketers need to understand is, what do LLMs think about their brand or product through the lens of purchase criteria that they think are most important? Because those are the purchase criteria that they're going to communicate to end users. And actually, in the world of agents, those purchase criteria are what agents are going to utilize to make a decision. So I argue that many times marketers are measuring the wrong things, like just straight citations and things like that, and really need to measure against a new set of metrics.
Yeah. So, right, in the SEO world, right, it's all about visibility and
Yep.
traffic, right? So it's really like, did you get the visibility on the keyword and the traffic? And I think what you're saying is that the LLMs have opinions. It's not just the visibility, they have opinion.
Exactly. Yep.
And they're going to have, and it's not just a good or bad opinion, it's a complex opinion on many different purchase factors, right? And then they're
Yes.
going to, and then that sentiment about it, it's not just, yeah, is this product good or bad? It's this, it's, is the price competitive with this set? Is
Yes.
is the quality good? Do they have a sustainability story? Whatever those purchase criteria are, it's much more complicated. So how do you, and this is a core part of what Revere does, how do you get to understanding what the LLMs think? Because I mean, as a CMO or
Yep.
as a marketer, you might say, oh, well, that's easy. All I'm going to do, I'm going to do a search and say, tell me what you think about now speed, and I'm going to
Right.
get the
Right.
whole
Right.
answer. So
Yeah.
why is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
an insufficient response
Yeah.
to what's happening?
So, well, one is the breadth of what you have to ask about is absolutely huge. Secondly, is one of the things about LLMs that make them very complicated is they're non-deterministic. So they respond differently every time. And the other thing that is crazy is that they respond by who the user is. So ChatGPT is going to respond different to you, David, than it is me. And so marketers have a real challenge to really understand how these platforms are responding. So what Revere does is we use multi-prompting synthesis and analysis and query LLMs with thousands and thousands of prompts to really help a marketer understand how their brand or product is showing up in categories against competitors. Are they in the recommendation set? Where will they be in the recommendation set? How will the LLM describe the brand or product? What are the positive things about that, negative things? And then also this whole grading on brand pillars and purchase dimensions. And so for a marketer to do that on his or her own, very, very difficult. And then you have the multi-channel item where, it's not only ChatGPT, but it's Claude, it's Google AI, it's DeepSeek, and all these models are being updated every couple months. So, we have brands when a new model comes out, it's like, how am I represented? How has it changed? It is so, so hard to keep up with. And then you go to the whole question of optimization. And what do you do?
Yeah, and we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna get there next. But so it sounds like it's almost impossible for you to do this on your own because you'd have
Yes.
to have multiple people in multiple locations with multiple backgrounds, all manually querying multiple LLMs with every question or
Yes.
every dimension of the product search. And then you're going to get that slice in time and it's going to change, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
products like Revere solve that problem and you were able to build a complete picture of what the brand is all about in a short period of time, and that's hugely powerful. So talk to me about like, well, before we talk about what we're going to do about it, talk to me
Yes.
about the new set of KPIs because we said that it's the old set of KPIs around that we thought about with SEO and with generative engine optimization or GEO are insufficient because we're looking
Yes.
at things like um, keyword visibility. We're looking at, in SEO and keyword organic search traffic and things like that. And in GEO, we're looking at citations and mentions. And
Yeah.
so talk to me about the new set of KPIs that Revere is introducing or, in working with. And I know this is a little bit evolving, but
Yeah.
what would you recommend um, marketers, senior marketers track when it comes to brand brand, not just brand visibility, but brand quality, maybe.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would call
That
it.
visibility is a difficult word
Yeah.
because it means so many things. And we actually, one of the KPIs, so there's five KPIs that brands should be tracking. And
Okay.
one is actually visibility, but actually with a very, very different definition. At Revere, we actually define visibility as uh, is the LLM going to put you in the consideration set
Mhm.
for the category? So we're no longer keyword based, we're category based. And will the LLM put you in the consideration set? And then actually, where will it put you in the consideration set? Are you at the top of the list? Are you at the bottom? Are you the bottom 10th? And so we actually measure that over time for brands to see how they're doing. The second is sentiment. And we ask LLMs tons of questions about the brand and category and competitors and things like that. And then we measure overall sentiment, degree of positiveness, negativeness. And then more importantly, we identify the drivers. What are the key messages coming through? And that actually starts to sort of inform what the marketer needs to manage around these LLMs. We also have key metrics around how the LLM thinks and grades how you're doing around brand pillars that are specific for the category, and then also purchase criteria. And one of the things we do is we identify the key purchase criterias that the LLMs are deeming as most important. And that actually has a couple different impacts. One is it's great to understand that because in a world where we're going to have to market to LLMs, market to those purchase criteria,
Mhm.
because in a world of agents, those are the criteria that are going to be utilized for them to decide. And then the last one is all around source authority and really identifying the key sources, the frequencies that are impacting the representation of brands on LLMs.
Incredibly powerful. So that's a sounds like a very comprehensive set of KPIs to track. It strikes me that brands spend a lot of time and money on market research,
Yeah,
understanding what
yeah,
buyers think and what they want, especially consumer brands. Maybe not as much on B2B, but probably significant B2B brands are doing a lot of market research, right?
yeah.
And that's expensive. We're doing surveys, we're doing focus groups and all that. Do you see the investment starting to happen in this area to really understand what the LLMs think? Because that's essentially what you're doing. I mean, there's kind of an
Yeah,
analogy in market research to the LLM influencers as
yeah,
there is market research to consumers. Do you see the investment starting to happen significantly to match
absolutely.
what's happening
Yeah.
with market research?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, LLMs are reflecting the whole corpus of knowledge out there in the overall environment, right? And that's both customer information, it's data, and things like that. And these LLMs can act and actually Revere can be a great market research tool to help inform about what a brand needs to be worked on. And we identify things like how are you doing on customer service or how you're doing on innovation. Actually identifying the most important purchase criteria. That's a market research question as well. And so we're actually seeing our platform actually have two modes. One is sort of uh, overall brand representation to inform optimization, but then also just as an insights tool around how brands are being viewed by the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's just incredibly powerful. I wonder if you're investing heavily in market research, if the results that the market research is telling you from consumers or your buyers will be consistent with what the LMs are telling you. If you could kind of
Yeah, yeah,
line this up, maybe that's a
yeah,
future research study
yeah,
for you. But let's talk about what's a marketer to do in this new environment. Let's say you get all this insight, you get all this information, you start tracking these KPIs, you buy Revere, you're understanding what's happening with your brand. What do you do about it? Well, how do you influence the LLM influencers in a positive
Yeah,
way?
that's such a terrific question. And we are at such an early stage around all this. And the natural tendency of everybody has been basically to move to a technical SEO approach, which is good, a geo approach, generating great content against what people are asking in LLMs and things like that. And that's where the primary focus is of marketers today. I'd argue that that's not going to be nearly enough. And there are several other things that marketers need to worry about in this new environment. One is agentic AI data readiness. So, data structuring, actually ensuring that your data gets into the LLMs through direct APIs, different protocols like MCP, WebMCP, and that's a little bit of a data challenge versus a marketing challenge, but a very, very important part of the equation. I'd also argue that core brand marketing is going to be even more important as these LLMs utilize the whole corpus of information out there. And so, how your brand is discussed uh, and your narrative is going to be super, super important. And that goes into the whole realm of sort of reputation and management as well. These LLMs are using Reddit, Quora, Trustpilot very, very frequently. And so, sort of doubling down on company reputation and reputation management is super, super important. The other thing I'll say is that because LLMs are so transparent and they're not shy, that there are going to be times where you're going to have to change company practice or product to really shape what an LLM is saying. And really good example is in the EV world, one of the big purchase criteria is range, right? And guess what? An LLM, if you have poor range, is not going to be shy about that. No amount of content that you put up is going to overcome that. What do you need to do? Fix the range. And
Right.
so there are core company practices, core parts of your product, that things that we surface that are going to also need to be changed as well. So that's we have six pillars of AI brand transformation: technical SEO, geo, brand management, company reputation, data, and then the last one is company practice.
Mm. Yeah, because ultimately you're not going to fool the LLM
Yeah,
with a press release or a
exactly.
marketing campaign when the reality is the product is not as competitive. So there's really, you're saying, I think there's a deep market research, product marketing feedback loop that has to happen
Yes.
with the LLMs to take
Yeah.
those results seriously and say, well, maybe in some cases you're gonna provide information where we can correct the record. I was with a client this morning and we looked at some of your data with them
Yep.
and it said, oh, one of the negatives is that they only had one location. And the CMO said, no, we have three locations, you know? And
Yep.
they're like, well, we need to get that out there, right? So there are
Right.
things like that, but there are other cases where you're saying, well, really, he's going to give you feedback on what the most important key purchase criteria are. And so one of the things I love about your product is when you talk about key purchase criteria and you give that competitive feedback, that's like deep strategy. That would
Yeah.
take a strategy consultant a lot of time and money and research to get to, and you deliver that so succinctly, and it's very powerful. So,
Thank you.
and you deliver it in a way that's super actionable. So,
Thank you.
I'm just excited about the way that you're evolving this. So we just have a few minutes left, Mike, but as you see the year ahead evolving for Revere, you're pretty far ahead in providing all this deep data to marketers. What do you
Yeah.
see happening through 2026 with the adoption of Revere? How brand marketers are thinking, our marketers are thinking about this. What do you kind of see happening this year?
Well, I think as you, in terms of what sort of marketers are going to be focused on, they're going to triple down on this area. They have to, right? And I also think that everything's going to evolve, and marketers are going to start to look at what are the right metrics. So instead of getting to citations or share of voice, is am I going to be in the consideration set, and where am I, and how do I best influence that? And so marketers are going to get to that next level. And I think that's actually where Revere can help, because we've been at the forefront of this for a long time now, and we've been pushing the thinking. And our new metrics, our sort of our new methodology around these six pillars of AI brand transformation push things again.
Yeah, very, very powerful, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for taking the time to share
You
this
bet.
all with our listeners. I love what you're doing. You provide this deep insight in this area that is very confusing to a lot of people. And you bring clarity and focus and tools that are highly actionable that help us win in the marketplace. So thank you again for taking the time today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.